How's it going, guys, and welcome back. Hope you're doing well. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to go over, for new and returning players, and currently playing players, maybe coming from a different weapon, is we're going to go over Howling Blade versus Whirlwind, and which one really is right for each player. Now, the first thing I'll say, before we get into it is, again, I like to do unscripted content, so I will post the chapters down below in case it gets a little long-winded, which it usually does, so hopefully I can help you navigate. But then the second thing before I get into it actually is I just want to kind of just the mindset going in. I'm not one of those Soulsborne elitist weirdos that you have to have your balls in a meat grinder to be really playing the game, or you have to play a certain way. Look, you spent the same amount of money on the game as I did. Play the game however you want at the end of the day, really. It makes no difference to me, right? Play the game how you have fun, and that's that, right? But the point of this video is to maybe give you a little bit of additional insight and maybe think about some certain things you may not have thought about it before, and to kind of help it can give you some insight and to help you keep some things in mind as you play, to help steer your decision, or not steer your decision, but to help you make up your own mind, right? So other than that, guys, let's get into it. So out the gate, this is what I'll say. Whether you're a new player or a returning player or currently playing player, and you are using a different weapon, I will say this. I think every dual wield player should start out with Whirlwind. The reason why is because I think that inevitably every Whirlwind player, or dual wield player, will end up using Howling Blade regardless. And the reason why I think that, again, this is just my opinion, the reason why I think that is because Whirlwind has such a narrow play style, and it is so kind of disjointed, or it doesn't flow and synergize as well with your spirit skills in general, right? That the play style itself, and I'm not saying you have to use it, but the play style that it encourages you to use and that it's more geared towards ends up becoming stale faster, and the skill ceiling of Whirlwind is not as high as the skill ceiling of Howling Blade in the long run, right? So that's why I think that every dual wield player, whether you're new or returning or currently playing in a different weapon, start out with Whirlwind, get the experience, right? And new players will learn how to manage their stamina. It'll be easier to use Whirlwind while they're learning the other elements of the game, etc. But then you just get the experience, so you can see, oh, cool, I do a spin, this is awesome, it's a cool skill, yada yada yada. But when it gets stale, inevitably, right? When it gets stale, or when you think to yourself, hey, this is kind of confining, is there more to this weapon's moveset? Short answer, yes, there absolutely is, and the skill ceiling is very high. So that's when those players will inevitably move on to Howling Blade, and they will use that for the remainder of their time, or I should say the vast majority of their time with the dual wield weapon set. Now, I also wanted to make this video because, and I'm going to put some overlays up here, is because when Khazan first came out, there was a lot of, obviously there was a lot of content out, and I understand, the name of the game with content creation mainly is, you want to be the first one to have a certain thing, and then you get your content out there, a bunch of people watch it, and, let the pieces fall where they may, etc., right? That's just how the content creation game works, I guess. But what I think the downside of this is that some people put information out a little too fast. So I don't really, I'm one of the people who I like to play a game, and then I look up content of the game much after I play the game, and I've done everything that I want to do. So I know there's not a lot of new content creation now, But it kind of hit me the other day because I was looking through some videos, and again, much older videos, and no one in particular, just, some larger content creators, some smaller. And I was looking at some of the comparisons between Howling Blade and Whirlwind, and I was very surprised. There was such conflicting information, right? It's like, if I'm a new player, or, I'm one of the people who likes to look up content first going into a game, I see, and things I were seeing were, you know, Whirlwind is bad, Howling Blade is good, Whirlwind is too difficult, or Whirlwind is easy to use, Howling Blade is way too hard to use and impractical. And then I was seeing other things that were like, Howling Blade is, what was it, like, it's better, but they were only using Howling Blade as just the finisher, and they were only using it in that manner. So it hit me. I was like, well, if new people are looking up content, and that content comparing Whirlwind and Howling Blade, if they're only using this aspect of Howling Blade as their comparison, then their comparison itself will be very skewed. Because a lot of the stuff I saw out there were like, they didn't even mention the damage negation aspect of Howling Blade. A lot of the videos that I saw were like, oh, it's impractical, you can't really use it, it's not gonna, it's just if it happens, cool. And then they would give their praise all to Whirlwind and say it's just the end all, like, this is the skill to use no matter what. So I wanted to put out this video for those players that I mentioned, and because playing the game for as long as I have, I think that my review, I'm not saying those ones are bad, but I think that having some more time in the game and some more time with Dual Wield specifically will give a better, more thorough review of having tested these abilities. Now, with Dual Wield, the reason why, in case you're a new player or you're a player with a different weapon set who hasn't used Dual Wield that much, the reason why this is such a bigger topic for the Dual Wield weapon specifically is because it really has a big impact and directs your playstyle, like, as a whole, right? You can immediately tell whether someone's using Howling Blade or whether they're using Whirlwind. One, not only because you see the skill, but just the way that they go about the fight, right? Because your mindset is completely different, and you have a lot more limited tools at your disposal when you're using Whirlwind. So with that being said, again, in general, guys, because I want to keep this video a little shorter, the pros, I think everybody should start out with Whirlwind, but then I think they'll inevitably move on to Howling Blade once they want to really see how far they can take Dual Wield, right? And they can see all the possibilities that they have, interconnect their skills, things like that. So I think everyone should start out with Whirlwind and just get the experience out of the way, and then they can move on to Howling Blade. But I think that in general, Howling Blade and Whirlwind are both easy to use at surface level. So if you're only using Howling Blade by just doing light attack and then spamming the Howling Blade activation to do the finisher, you're doing the same input as you would Whirlwind. So there's not really a difference there, right? But if you're taking Howling Blade to its full extent and you're really utilizing every aspect that the skill has to offer, it not only outperforms Howling Blade, in my opinion, but again, it's a lot more fun, and it allows you to better utilize the entire rest of your skill tree and your spirit skills. So other than that, guys, again, I hope that helped clarify the decision. I wanted to keep it nice and short and concise because I really don't think it's that much of a debate, right? I think that it's pretty clear from just like, pretty like easily observable conclusion that one would come to from just playing with Dual Wield for a little bit of time. Other than that, I will say the The last thing I'll mention is the gear sets. So excluding Bloodthirsty Fiend, because Bloodthirsty Fiend is geared towards players who just want, and I don't think this is like a controversial thing to say for dual wield. It's just Bloodthirsty Fiend is for people who just want an easier run, right? They just want an easier time playing the game. Bloodthirsty Fiend kind of negates a lot of the elements of that the game, right? Like it has a lot of mini stuns to your enemy, kind of slows them down, and then it also does an insane amount of damage, right? So I'm going to exclude that gear set. Then talking about gear sets, Whirlwind's specific gear set really outperforms every other gear set that you would use with Whirlwind. So if you're using Whirlwind, 9 times out of 10, you're just going to be using the Beast Slayer set. With Howling Blade, because of its brink dodge element, it really opens up the build diversity that you can use with Howling Blade and then still maintain a very high damage. And because you have that build diversity in there, you can use different elements of different weapons set bonuses a lot more than you can do with Whirlwind. Other than that, guys, again, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope this was, again, insightful, and I hope it kind of helps steer your, or help, not help steer, but again, help you keep some things in mind while you're playing. Other than that, that's really all I got for you. Again, yeah, I will see you in the next video.